Over the weekend, 18-year-old Peyton Gendron committed a horrific act. This very twisted young man drove hours to a grocery store in a black neighborhood in Buffalo, New York, and slaughtered 10 innocent people. His goal was to kill black people. He is a radical, fringe, and mentally ill person. And from the accounts that we have heard, he killed a number of very lovely people over the weekend. Sadly, the moment that the colors of the perpetrator and the victims came out, the process of dividing this country started all over again. This certainly was not a story that would be marginalized by the press and ignored. You knew this story would not be forgotten by next weekend. There's far too much political capital in this tragedy, and Democrats and the press tonight, of course, are feasting on that. Almost immediately, President Biden was scheduled to visit Buffalo. Hasn't turned around that fast in a long time. Not to bring the country back together, but to make sure that we stay very far apart, which is what they're going to need in November. But when a maniac from their political persuasion used his car to slaughter 6 people at a Christmas parade in Wisconsin, the reaction, of course, was much different. Biden couldn't be bothered. The press covered the story the same way they cover a house fire. It was not politicized. You didn't hear the major outlets digging into the perpetrator's support for black nationalism, or BLM. And it took nearly a month for the first ladies, Doug and Jill, to bother to even visit Waukesha. And they're the ones that went. Biden and Kamala couldn't even manage to go. Today, our brand new press secretary was asked about that. She answered with a scowl and a response that shows just how political these types of tragedies have become in this country.
He's visited many communities. Buffalo, he's able to go tomorrow to Buffalo before the trip. That is something that was important for him to do. But he has visited many other communities. Buffalo is not the first community, sadly, that he has to go up to.
During his presidency, which has been going on for about 18 months now, the president has only visited one other shooting tragedy, just for her information. It was the Georgia massage parlor shootings. So let's not pretend that Biden was somehow too busy to go to Waukesha, or that there was too many other of these shootings that happen all the time that he couldn't make it. No, there's only been one. This will be number 2. They cannot acknowledge that the fringes of both parties consist of people who are deranged and dangerous, because their mantra is there's only one true threat to democracy and national security, and of course that is the Republican Party, MAGA. And the Department of Justice and White House are fully invested in maintaining that narrative. It's very, very important to their politics. That being said, this country does have a very serious problem on our fringes. It's pretty obvious. There are unhinged people who are plotting horrible acts even as we speak, lashing out at what they hate about this country. And the response to this tragedy will do nothing more than exacerbate that problem as the press divide us even further. From Rolling Stone, the Buffalo shooter isn't a lone wolf. He is a mainstream Republican. That is a real headline from a desperate and failing publication. And sadly, there's so many more examples. The noise, of course, is all over your TV.
If you're a Republican donor tweeting about how bad you feel about this, but you're donating to people like Elise Stefanik, you are part of the problem. Yeah. If you are a staffer working for them, you are part of the problem. If you are voting for them, you are part of the problem. So I'll tell you what great replacement theory should be. We should replace all these people peddling hate and making financial and political gain from spreading racism. We should replace them with people who hold up American values.
The messaging is pretty clear. You are now an enabler of this behavior if you say don't like the fact that hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants are being invited into your country and then flown into your hometown in the middle of the night. 240,000 of them just in April. Well, if you don't like that, you are no different than the killer. You are the same as the Buffalo shooter if you are against radical ideologies that vilify whiteness, turn white people into the devil. Yeah, you're the same as him. The truth is, on race, the left has been screaming that the right is becoming radicalized. They love that, when they're the ones actually moving the needle. If you really look at it, it's the truth. Over the past couple years, this country has become a race-obsessed misery. And there's only one singular side that is pushing that narrative. For 2 years, Americans have been told that their country is systemically racist. It is awful. 2/3 of the people in this country are white, and they have been shamed for acts they never committed. They've been shamed for their skin color. They've been told they have privilege. They should apologize. Well, remember this humiliating moment. Pelosi and other Democrats wearing African cultural garb, a bunch of old white people kneeling on the ground on Capitol Hill for 9 minutes. Have you ever witnessed a more embarrassing example of pandering in your life? An entire country that day rolling its eyes. And then they really went to work, convincing this country that because a handful of the million cops that have to clean up all the garbage in this country are bad apples, well, the entire nation and its police forces are racist, and they need radical change. And even that's not enough. We are systemically racist to our very core. The entire nation, the Constitution, everything we are, we need to tear it up and throw it away. That was a very mainstream ideology in the summer of 2020. You heard that from pretty much everybody on the left. You're white, you're racist, and so are your kids. Kneel and vote Democrat if you want forgiveness. They pounded this fake ideology so hard that millions of people bought into it.
We know from the intelligence community one of the greatest threats to our national security is domestic terrorism manifested by white supremacists.
Race and racism is literally the building blocks of this country.
This country is still struggling with racism. We still have racism showing up in almost every institution.
This is a persistent infection in white American culture.
They say stuff like that all the time. Now, most of us know that that talk is nonsense, but not all. And more than anything, talk like that is what starts race wars. The left has been dividing this country over this issue for a long time. And they do it to control a faction of the populace that is critical to their survival. They do it to try to control the black vote. And for most of us, it's just obnoxious, irresponsible politics as usual from a very desperate party. But the fringe, again, on the outsides of both parties, the fringe that exists on both sides of the aisle is the problem. And from those same talking points that you just heard, you not only get Waukesha, but you also get Buffalo. You get extremists on both sides going nuts because they're being fed a fake narrative. And the more we divide this country, the more we lie and create racial tension for TV ratings or political clout, the more of these events we will continue to see.